The call came at 3 in the morning. An unknown international number. My stomach dropped before I even answered. Ms. Torres? This is the Barcelona airport security. We have your daughter here. She was left alone at the gate. My blood turned to ice. Emma. My 8-year-old Emma. I'd trusted my parents to take her on a trip to Spain, a grandmother-granddaughter bonding experience, they'd said. Now she was abandoned in a foreign country, 6,000 miles away from home. Where are my parents? I demanded, my voice shaking. The security officer hesitated. They boarded a flight to Miami 2 hours ago. Your daughter has been waiting here alone since then. I couldn't breathe. They just left her. Like she was garbage they could discard when she became inconvenient. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one. Every share helps these stories reach someone who needs to hear them. Let's keep the conversation going. I booked the next flight to Barcelona. My hands trembled as I packed, tears streaming down my face. Emma. My baby girl with her wild curls and endless questions about everything. The girl who painted tiny fairy houses in her sketchbook and named every stray cat in our neighborhood. She trusted them. I trusted them. 7 hours on that plane felt like drowning in slow motion. I tried calling my parents repeatedly. Every call went to voicemail. My mother's cheerful recorded voice saying, "Leave a message," made me want to scream. By the time I landed, rage had replaced the shock. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. They'd planned this, probably discussed it over their morning coffee while Emma slept peacefully in the hotel room. I found Emma in a security office, clutching her stuffed fox, Rusty. Her face lit up when she saw me, then crumbled. Mommy. She ran into my arms, sobbing. Grandma said they had to leave early. She said you'd come get me. But I waited so long. I held her tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. A kind security officer named Sophia had stayed with her, giving her snacks and letting her draw pictures. Your daughter is very brave, Sophia said softly. I thanked her through tears. On the taxi ride to the hotel, Emma asked the question that shattered me. Did I do something wrong? Is that why they left? I pulled her close. No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Grandma and Grandpa did. That night in the hotel, I watched Emma sleep. She looked so small in the big bed, Rusty tucked under her chin. I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with questions. Why did they do this? To hurt me? To prove some twisted point? My parents had always been controlling, always critical of my parenting. You're too soft with her, my mother would say. You're raising her to be weak. But this? Abandoning a child in a foreign airport? This was monstrous. I pulled out my laptop and started documenting everything. Times. Dates. The security footage request I'd made. Screenshots of unanswered calls. I didn't know what I was building yet, but instinct told me to record everything. Something dark and determined was growing inside me. We flew home 2 days later. Emma clung to me through both flights, flinching every time I stood up. You're not leaving, right? She kept asking. Never, I promised. I will never leave you. When we landed, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls. Not from my parents, from my sister, my aunt, random family members. The messages were all the same. What did you do? Why are you causing drama? Mom and Dad are very upset. I stared at my phone in disbelief. They were upset? They'd flipped the narrative somehow, made themselves the victims. I called my sister back. They said you insisted they leave Emma there to teach you a lesson about respect, she told me. That's insane and you know it, I said, voice shaking. The lies spread fast. Within a week, half my family believed I'd orchestrated the whole thing. My mother told everyone I was an unfit parent who needed tough love, that Emma was spoiled and needed discipline, that I'd begged them to leave her there to learn consequences. It was breathtaking, the way they twisted reality. Emma noticed the tension. Why isn't Grandma calling? She asked one night. I couldn't tell her the truth, that Grandma was busy destroying my reputation. I just said, adults have complicated problems sometimes. But watching her sad little face, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let them hurt Emma again. I started making phone calls. Quiet calls. Research calls. I discovered my parents were careless in ways I'd never noticed before. Their business, a small real estate investment company, had messy records. Their personal finances were tangled with corporate accounts. They'd cut corners, assumed their charm would carry them through any scrutiny. I spent nights after Emma went to bed, digging through public records, property deeds, business filings, tax documents, all public information, all perfectly legal to access. I found irregularities. Small ones at first, payments that didn't quite match up, properties registered under weird LLCs. Emma sometimes woke up and found me at the kitchen table. "What are you doing, Mommy?" she'd ask, rubbing her eyes. "Homework," I'd say with a smile. "Grown-up homework." She'd nod and shuffle back to bed, satisfied with that answer. I hired a lawyer. Not a family lawyer, a corporate attorney named Bernard who specialized in financial disputes. I showed him everything I'd found. He listened carefully, making notes. "Your parents have been sloppy," he said finally. "Very sloppy. There's a paper trail here that could cause serious problems for them." I asked what kind of problems. He smiled. "The kind that involves audits and investigations. The kind that makes people very uncomfortable." I felt a spark of something cold and bright. This was real. This could work. Emma hugged me when I got home. "You look happy, Mommy." I was. For the first time since that nightmare call from Barcelona, I felt like I could breathe. Like I had power instead of just pain. My first move was small. I filed a formal complaint with the state's Child Protective Services. Not because I wanted Emma investigated, but because I wanted my parents' abandonment documented officially. The caseworker who interviewed us was horrified. They just left her? In another country. She wrote everything down carefully. Emma told her story in her sweet, matter-of-fact way. Grandma said she had to catch a plane. She said Mommy was coming. But Mommy was so far away. The caseworker's jaw tightened. "This is absolutely unacceptable." The report went into an official database. Permanent. Undeniable. My parents had no idea I'd done this. They thought I was still reeling, still playing defense. They didn't know I'd gone on offense. At Emma's school art show, she unveiled a painting that made my throat tight. It showed a little girl holding a stuffed animal, standing alone in a big empty space filled with airplanes. The teacher pulled me aside. "Emma told me what happened in Spain." "I'm so sorry." Other parents had heard too. Sympathy poured in, and with it, questions about my parents. I answered honestly but carefully. They made a choice I'll never understand. But Emma and I are moving forward. Word spread. My parents' carefully constructed image as loving grandparents started cracking. People talked. People wondered. And my parents, who valued their reputation above everything, began to notice. My mother called for the first time since Barcelona. "People are asking questions," she said coldly. "What are you telling them?" "The truth," I replied and hung up. Bernard called with news. "I found something interesting. Your parents co-own a commercial property with your uncle. But the ownership structure is legally questionable. It looks like your name was forged on some of the original documents years ago." My heart pounded. My name? Yes. You were listed as a silent investor when you were 19. You never signed anything, did you? I hadn't. I didn't even know about the property. That's fraud, Bernard said simply. And it gives you legal standing to challenge the entire ownership structure. I thought about Emma's painting, about her waiting alone in that airport. Do it, I said. Challenge everything. Bernard smiled. With pleasure. That night, Emma asked why I was humming while making dinner. Because things are getting better, sweetheart. The legal challenge hit my parents like a bomb. Suddenly, they had lawyers calling them. Suddenly, they had to produce documents they couldn't find. Suddenly, the property they'd assumed was safely theirs was frozen in legal limbo. My uncle called me furious. What are you doing? This is family property. Then why was my forged signature on the documents? I asked calmly. Silence. He hung up. My mother left a voicemail, her voice shaking with rage. You're tearing this family apart over nothing. Over a misunderstanding in Barcelona. I played it for Bernard. Save that, he advised. It's evidence she's not taking the fraud seriously. Emma watched me more carefully now. She was smart, perceptive. Are you fighting with Grandma? She asked. I'm protecting us, I answered. Sometimes that means standing up to people, even family. While digging through more records, I found something else. A family trust fund set up by my grandmother before she died. It was supposed to be divided equally among her grandchildren, including Emma. But my parents were the trustees, and they'd never distributed Emma's portion. In fact, they'd been using the money for their own investments. Bernard whistled when I showed him the documents. This is textbook misappropriation of trust funds. Your parents could face serious legal consequences. I felt ice in my veins. Emma's money. They'd stolen from their own granddaughter. The same granddaughter they'd abandoned in Spain. I want every penny back, I told Bernard. With interest. We'll get it, he promised. All of it. I went home and hugged Emma extra tight that night. The lawsuit I filed was comprehensive. The property fraud. The trust fund theft. A separate civil suit for emotional distress and child endangerment related to Barcelona. My parents' lawyer tried to arrange a meeting. Your clients need to understand, Bernard told him coldly, that my client is not interested in reconciliation. She's interested in justice. The lawyer sputtered. But it's family. Tell that to the 8-year-old they abandoned in a foreign country, Bernard replied. When he told me about the conversation, I felt something fierce and bright bloom in my chest. This was really happening. I was really going to make them pay. Emma came home from school with a gold star on her spelling test. Look, Mommy. I got every word right. I hung it on the fridge next to her airplane painting. These symbols of her resilience. My parents tried to turn the family against me. They called a big family meeting without inviting me. My cousin texted me afterwards. They're saying you're mentally unstable. That you're making up stories about Barcelona because you're bitter about the divorce. I hadn't even been divorced. They were just lying, desperately throwing anything at the wall to see what stuck. But this time it didn't work. Too many people had seen the documentation. The security footage from Barcelona that I'd obtained. The official CPS report. The paper trail of fraud. My aunt called me. I believe you, she said quietly. I always thought something was off about their business practices. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Allies were forming. The family was splitting. And my parents were losing. A distant cousin named Felix reached out. He worked in commercial real estate and had always thought my parents' deals seemed shady. I have copies of some emails, he told me over coffee, from years ago. Your dad was bragging about creative accounting and how he'd gotten around some regulations. He slid a folder across to me. I kept them because I thought they might be useful someday. Looks like that day is today. I could have kissed him. Emma was with us, drawing in her sketchbook. She looked up at Felix. Are you helping my mommy? He smiled at her. Yes, I am. She smiled back. Good. She's really strong, but everyone needs help sometimes. Felix looked at me with respect. You're raising her right. The emails Felix provided were damning. They showed my parents deliberately structuring deals to avoid taxes and hide assets. Bernard immediately filed additional complaints with the state tax authority and the IRS. This is going to trigger audits, he warned me. Big ones. Are you sure you want to go this far? I thought about Emma's face in that airport security office. I'm sure. The audits began within weeks. My parents were suddenly drowning in paperwork, investigators, and financial scrutiny. Their business partners started distancing themselves. Their reputation in the real estate community cratered. One of my mother's friends called me. What you're doing is cruel, she said. They're good people who made one mistake. They stole from their granddaughter and abandoned her in another country, I replied. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of cruelty. My parents tried one last emotional manipulation. They showed up at Emma's school. The principal called me immediately. Your parents are here. They want to see Emma. Should I allow it? Absolutely not, I said, already running for my car. When I got there, my mother was crying in the office. Please, she begged. We just want to apologize to Emma. We miss her. I stepped between them and Emma, who was hiding behind the principal's desk. You don't get to use her to make yourselves feel better, I said coldly. You abandoned her. You stole from her. You lied about me. You're done. My father's face turned red. You're turning our granddaughter against us. No, I said. You did that all by yourself. They left. Emma hugged me. I don't want to see them, Mommy. Bernard called with unexpected news. There's a clause in your grandmother's original trust document. If the trustees are found to have mismanaged the funds, control of the entire trust transfers to the next generation, specifically to the eldest grandchild. I stopped breathing. Emma, he confirmed. If we prove mismanagement, which we already have, your daughter becomes the primary beneficiary and you become the trustee on her behalf. We're talking about a substantial amount of money. I sat down hard. My parents' entire financial cushion, their safety net, their retirement plan, all of it would go to Emma, the granddaughter they'd abandoned. The poetry of it was exquisite. File the motion, I told Bernard. Let's finish this. The judge's ruling came down like thunder. The property ownership was voided due to fraud. My parents were ordered to return every penny they'd taken from the trust fund, with interest and penalties. Control of the entire trust transferred to Emma, with me as guardian. The total amount was staggering, nearly $800,000. My parents' lawyer tried to appeal. The judge was not sympathetic. Your clients forged documents, misappropriated trust funds, and demonstrated a pattern of financial misconduct. This court finds their behavior unconscionable. I sat in the courtroom, Emma beside me with her coloring book. She looked up when the judge finished. Did we win, Mommy? I smiled, tears streaming down my face. Yes, baby. We won. My mother's face across the courtroom was ash gray. Good. The publicity was inevitable. Local news picked up the story. Wealthy couple defrauds own granddaughter after abandoning her overseas. My parents went from respected community members to pariahs overnight. Their real estate company lost clients. Their social club quietly asked them to resign. Friends stopped calling. I didn't have to say a word. The truth, now fully exposed, did all the work. Emma noticed the newspaper article with her picture. That's me, she said proudly. She didn't understand all the legal words, but she understood the basics. Mommy fought for me, she told her teacher. And she won. Her teacher called me, voice thick with emotion. Emma's telling everyone how brave you are. She's so proud of you. I cried happy tears for the first time in months. My parents made one final attempt. They sent a letter, begging for mercy. We're losing everything, my mother wrote. Please, for the sake of family, drop the civil suit. We'll pay back Emma's money. We'll stay away. Just stop. I read it twice. Emma was at the kitchen table, painting. What's that? She asked. A letter from Grandma, I said. She looked up, curious but not eager. What does it say? That she's sorry for hurting us. Emma thought about it. Do you believe her? I looked at my brilliant, resilient daughter. No, I said honestly. I don't think she's sorry she hurt us. I think she's sorry she got caught. Emma nodded, satisfied, and went back to her painting. I threw the letter away. There would be no mercy. The civil trial for emotional distress was brief. My lawyer presented the security footage, the CPS report, Emma's therapy records showing anxiety after Barcelona, and my parents' own contradictory statements. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They awarded us $250,000 in damages. My father literally gasped when the verdict was read. My mother just stared straight ahead, frozen. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how I felt. Vindicated, I said simply, my daughter and I are moving forward with our lives. We're done looking back. Emma squeezed my hand. That night, we celebrated with ice cream sundaes. We're really okay now, aren't we? Emma asked. Yes, sweetheart, I said. We're more than okay. We're free. 6 months later, Emma was thriving. Her art was displayed in a local gallery, a series of paintings about finding home. She'd made new friends, excelled in school, and stopped having nightmares about airports. I'd used some of the settlement money to start a college fund for her and invest the rest carefully. We moved to a better neighborhood, closer to her school. My parents had lost almost everything. Their business dissolved. Their house went into foreclosure. They moved to a small apartment across town. I heard they'd declared bankruptcy. I felt no guilt, only relief. They'd try to break us. Instead, they'd broken themselves. Emma asked one day if I thought they'd learned their lesson. I don't know, I told her. But it doesn't matter. We learned ours. We're stronger than we knew. I took everything they valued. Their money, their reputation, their control, their comfortable retirement. I did it legally, methodically, using their own greed and carelessness against them. I never raised my voice, never made a scene. Just followed the trail of their own mistakes and let the law do its work. Emma and I stood on the balcony of our new apartment, watching the sunset. "Mommy," she said softly. "Yes, baby. Thank you for never giving up." I pulled her close. "I will always fight for you. Always." My parents thought they could abandon her and face no consequences. They thought I was weak, easily dismissed. They were wrong. I'd taken everything they had without ever touching them. And as Emma and I watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and crimson, I knew we'd finally found our peace. Justice wasn't loud. It was patient, precise, and absolutely devastating.